Thanks, Dan. With us and Bill O'Reilly in the Weekdays at Bernie segment tonight. We were looking forward to interviewing Dan Rather tomorrow evening. He has a new book out, and we had him booked for an extensive interview. However, a few days ago, Mr. Rather canceled. Today, he appeared on Good Morning America and talked about the Bush National Guard story that got him fired from CBS.
We reported a true story. I'm not at CBS now because I and my team reported a true story. It was a tough story, a story a lot of people didn't want to believe, and it was subjected to a terrific propaganda barrage to discredit it. We reported the truth, and that is that President Bush, later President Bush, when he was in National Guard service, he was at least AWOL, and we had a top general in the Army saying on the record he was a deserter.
All right, joining us now from Miami, the purveyor of BernardGoldberg.com, Mr. Goldberg. Before we get to why you think Rather might have canceled, the first question I would have asked him off what he said on Good Morning America was, you litigated this to the tune of a couple of $1 million that you spent yourself, and you lost. You lost in a court of law. Your assertion was not deemed credible because if it had been, you would have won. CBS then would have dismissed you without cause, and you would have won a huge judgments against him. How do you square it? See, that's the kind of question that I'd like to see him answer, but he wouldn't be. Right. He's not going to be asked that on the other program. So I think that's why he canceled.
Well, first of all, I don't blame him for canceling. I was thinking just a few hours ago of canceling myself.
Yeah.
No, but okay, but here's my educated but I think safe guess. I think Dan would rather be interviewed by an ideological soulmate, whether it's George Stephanopoulos or Chris Matthews or somebody like that, rather than sit down and be grilled by you. Now, everybody knows how charming and lovable you are, Bill, but still, I don't think he'd want to sit down and be grilled by you. So I don't think it's really that complicated. Well, I think it's basically that.
It takes me aback. It takes me, whatever I want to say, I don't even know. It takes me by surprise because Rather made his reputation being confrontational. All right, we all remember the Nixon thing, and in 60 Minutes he would run over with the trench coat. And you would think that, look, all right, I have an opportunity to go up against O'Reilly, biggest cable program in the world, second biggest bookseller next to the Today Show. I'm going to move some books. If I kick O'Reilly's butt, okay, I'll look like a hero in front of my crew. So it's a win-win for me, Dan Rather. See, that's the way I look at it. He had a lot to gain here.
You would think so. I mean, he took on, in what turned out to be a disaster, he took on George Bush the Elder on the CBS Evening News. He sat down face-to-face with Saddam Hussein, who could have had him killed before he left the country. But I know it doesn't sound logical, but I think he's more comfortable with sitting down with a murderer like Saddam Hussein than he is. I know, you know what I'm going to say, than sitting down with you.
Well, everybody
I mean,
is.
Look, the only reason people cancel,
yeah,
is because they have a conflict of scheduling, and that wasn't it, because he could have said, how about if I do it some other time?
We would have taken him.
He doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't want to do it.
And he doesn't want to do it.
Absolutely. And we were going to ambush him like we did with our pal Bill Moyers. But we decided not to. He's, what, is Dan 80 now? I mean, he's up there. Yeah, that's probably not the way to go.
And you said he spent a couple of $1 million. No. He in the interview that he did with some print or some online thing, the person said, you spent $5 million on this case, and Rather said, I wish it were only $5 million. It was more than that.
Wow.
So you know what? Here's a guy. Here's a man who covered every major story since the assassination of JFK. He has put his life in danger more than a few times, and I think he's painfully aware of the fact that someday down the road, when somebody writes the obit for Dan Rather, in the first paragraph, it's going to contain the words either Memogate or Rathergate or something like that. And I think that hurts him terribly. And
I do, but he could have rehabbed it here. This is the place to go, and he declined.
He has become obsessed with this, spending all the money that he spent and all that. He's like Captain Ahab, who became obsessed with the whale, you know, who did him in. he can't let this one go.
No, I
It's his
agree with you.
reputation
I
and his
agree.
legacy.
All right, I got to run this Jimmy Kimmel clip because it says something about the correspondence audience at the soiree on
Right,
Saturday night.
right.
Go.
Bill O'Reilly wrote a controversial book about another great president called Killing Lincoln. I actually have my own theory about Lincoln's death. I think John Wilkes Booth was innocent. I don't even think it was an assassination. I believe that Abraham Lincoln had a vision about what the Republican Party would become in 150 years, and he shot himself.
All right, applause and wild laughter. Is this because the correspondents are overwhelmingly liberal and Democrat?
Yes, I mean,
That's it?
Yeah, I mean,
That's what it
yes,
is.
it is. That is it. Actually, Jimmy Kimmel is a pro. He knows who his audience is. He knows that they're overwhelmingly liberal and Democratic. He also knows that this president spoke to the same audience just a few years ago and said, "Many of you covered my campaign, and all of you voted for me," and they weren't even embarrassed.
No, they applauded. They went, "That's right."
They applauded.
Right.
They applauded, exactly. So I think Kimmel, look, this joke was funny
Yep.
if you're a liberal Democrat, and that's who was in the audience overwhelmingly.
All right, Bernie Goldberg, everybody.
Pretty
Senator
simple.
John McCain on deck.